Hello everybody, it's been a hot minute, but we are back to answer your questions, comments, and concerns regarding My Fan Story, Your Hero Academia, based off of the ever-popular series My Hero Academia, which in no way sponsors us. I think I got it all in one go.
Yep.
Sorry we missed out last week, guys. We needed a little bit of a vacation. It's time to recharge the batteries a little bit, but we're back, we're better, and let's hear up some reviews. I think we had some latecomers come in for Chapter 7.
Yeah, so
we?
let's, we
which
can
is,
up the...
Yeah, which is Refresher is, the not date chapter.
The not date, alright.
The not date chapter that really was a date, but...
Alright, so Joe Clone, great chapter. I loved the date at the start. Also nice to meet Akurui a little bit more. So, excuse me. Kurai is a Star Wars nerd. I wonder if his hero name is an obscure reference to one of those characters like Kiadimundi. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry.
You could tell which one of us bled the Star Wars nerd into Kurai. A little bit.
Who is that?
He's the guy with the super tall hair. Super tall head. He's a conehead.
Yeah. He reminds me of the guy. He reminds me of the character in VeggieTales.
Which one?
The carrot man.
Oh, I know who you're talking about.
Laura's dad.
I was about to say that. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, that was a major segue.
Sorry. That's like literally what I think of every time I see that dude. Okay. Hey.
Popcorn.
Popcorn. Alright. We have problems. Our kids just watched that episode too, so. Oh my gosh. Alright. Hey, I just thought of this, but since this universe seems to be in the further future, given a reference to Rogue One, would Universal Studios Japan have the Mario theme park by then? They did release a trailer for it. That's cool. I did not even know that was a thing.
I did not know that was a thing either,
Maybe
but
more reasons to want to go to Japan. Anyway, digression over. Fighting time.
Yeah.
Hideki activates Akurui's
Hikari.
I don't know who we're talking about. I'm tired, dude. Hikari. See, can you tell? I don't actually read it. He just reads it to me, so I don't know what anything is, and I also just can't read because I'm dyslexic. All right. So,
Hikari, yes.
Who's Hikari? I'm tired.
He's the main character. His name is Kurai Hikari.
Oh, I'm tired.
Wow, you guys can see how much my sounding board is paying attention here. If this story sucks, it's her fault.
I'm sorry. I don't know what's going on.
You see what I have to work with?
I have problems. Where's my cursor? I can't find it. Sorry, dude. Alright. Kari activates Akurui's new tool, and it's obviously from the artwork a conduit to the project his energon like a lightsaber, making him feel like a Jedi. Since it's yellow, I wonder if Kurai is as much of a Star Wars nerd to know the meaning behind lightsaber colors. Can't wait for the next one. In the meantime, I'm off to read the next Tale.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that. Well, to answer your question about Kurai being a Star Wars nerd, he's as much of a Star Wars nerd as I am. This is like the first character I had the chance to let loose all my Star Wars nerd into. Other than my Star Sword series, but it's not the same thing. So yes, he would be aware of the different colors, the different colors for different lightsabers. But in his case, that doesn't really apply because his default energy color is yellow, so that's what color that's the color that the saber is going to be. No, we're not really doing any kyber crystal kind of mystic stuff happening. So sorry if that's a disappointment, but I didn't really see a need to change the saber color if that was just his default ability.
It's powered by his quirk, right?
Yeah, it's powered by his quirk. So there's not a battery.
He doesn't really have control.
He is the battery. Yeah, he is the battery for it. It doesn't have like a power cell or anything.
Yeah, so if he wanted it to be a different color, that would be cool, but I don't think he has the option.
No.
Unfortunately. Which I like yellow sabers. I think they're super cool.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, alright. Kirito 15-2. Fantastic chapter. I loved the not date with Mina. A lovely little time to lead up to the total disaster at the USJ. I thought though I have a suspicion that Kurai is going to lose his temper at some point in the next chapters. As I say, everyone better watch out. Everyone better watch out. Sorry, I cannot read today. No one wants an angry Energon user there. Though I do have a couple of questions. First, is Mina going to be Kurai's source of calm to bring him out of his rage? And second, if he does lose his temper to a massive degree, when are the teachers going to address that he is possibly the biggest threat to the students of UA? Can't wait for the next chapter. Alright.
Good couple of questions.
Have like sun's getting real low, big guy?
See, that's what I was... So, no. I'm actually trying to avoid that. Because that ship just sailed in from out of nowhere. That made no sense to me. I'm sorry. I know it's been over 5 years since those movies happened, but no, that made no sense. I can't get over it. It's not... No, there will be no sun. The sun will not be setting. The twin suns will not be setting on Tatooine. I'm sorry. It's not going to happen.
So...
No sunsets.
Mina is not going to be the person to settle him down.
I don't think there's really anybody that... I mean... Have you ever tried to, like, tell somebody to chill out when they're, like...
Angry.
Pissed the hell off?
Yeah, it's... I mean, I think it depends on the person. But for me, it's like... It seems like Kurai, his natural... Like, the way he is typically is he's a pretty chill person. It's just because of what's going on with his quirk and the way it affects
his
him.
body.
It's, it's basically like a mental health issue. So it's like having somebody who is like... When a certain thing triggers them, they have an episode, but their normal, like, healthy behavior doesn't look like that. So I feel like, tell me if I'm wrong, but I feel like this character is most generally a pretty chill individual. It's just when he has these episodes triggered by his quirk that he gets kind of out of control. And so that's not really something that someone can choose to calm down from. That's something that's, like, because if anybody has experienced or knows somebody who's experienced like some kind of serious episode triggered by a mental illness, it's not something you could just reason yourself through. It's something you need actual like help from like a medication.
Yeah, it's not as simple as your best mate coming up and being like, "Hey man, it's okay. Let's go hang out for a minute. Everything will be all right. It's just waiting for this to pass." No, this is like a medical emergency type of thing.
Yeah. So I think, like, a lot of people, yes, if they have someone who's close to them, who knows them and knows how to calm them down, that is a good contributing factor.
It can help.
Yeah, it can help. But this is very different from someone who just loses their temper easily. Like, I think, because if someone...
He doesn't exactly fly off the handle at the first sign of being irritated.
Doesn't. Like, I feel like you write characters who are like that, like Mataris. That is a self-control issue that he gradually learns to control.
Yeah.
Mataris, like, he's very volatile, but I think that this character is not like that. He's generally got a lot of self-control.
So for Mataris, it's like he doesn't... So the difference between them is that Mataris doesn't care if he has control over his temper or not, right? He's going to let his emotions do what they do, and consequences be damned. Kurai cares very much about what the consequences of his actions will be, so he has to keep an active lid on his emotions in the way that his powers will affect those that are around him. But again, not to say that he would fly off the handle easily. He's just more aware. He's consciously more aware of what he could end up doing if he's not careful with himself.
Yeah. Awesome. So that was first. So the second question was... what
will the UA faculty do?
Yeah. My question is, when have they ever done that with Bakugo? Bakugo's like the Mr. Psycho boy who's just raging everywhere, and then it seems like no one really seems to care that he's like villain material, except for like, Asui like makes comments every once in a while, like, "Dude, what's your deal?"
Yeah, but Bakugo's angry. Bakugo's always angry, so no one's gonna like him.
Yeah, so it's like you kind of have that stuff, but it's like this very anime trope of, wow, this makes no sense that they would let this person be here, but he's an interesting character and he adds to the social dynamic, so it's fine.
Well, I feel like it's kind of a case of, and don't anybody shake your head at me because you've known someone like this, where there's that idiot on the football team who despite having all his, despite like, there's no way he has the brains to be getting the grades that he's getting, but all the teachers are giving him a free pass because he's the star of the, he's the star of the football team. He's he's incredibly talented at what he does, and everybody wants to see him succeed at that. So they're willing to overlook they're willing to overlook his flaws, even if they're destructive to him and the people around him.
It's hard though, because Bakugo, like, he's very smart.
Mm-hmm.
And he is also Mr. Rageaholic, like you said. Mm-hmm. But it's just like, it's so hard when you have something where it's so important to be above reproach and have a good character. Like, I think, you know, gradually...
Again, this is a society that allowed Endeavor to become the number 2 hero.
Yeah.
Who has done who's done way more jacked up stuff than Bakugo has.
Yeah, that's true. Is that public knowledge, though?
It's not public knowledge, but I'm sure enough rumor tabloids could have gotten a hold of it that people would have like some knowledge of it.
Like a very Epstein situation there.
Yeah.
Okay, not to that extreme, but yeah, kind of like everyone kind of knows, but
nobody's willing to talk about it. No one is willing to say anything out loud about it.
So
at least that's my perspective on it. I don't know how public the knowledge actually is.
Yeah. So for me, I just feel like Bakugo is way more out of control than Kurai, and
nobody blinks twice at him being there.
Even thinks about it with Bakugo, and he's like super dangerous also. So I don't know. That's just my perspective. I don't know.
I think the way that they would see it is like, if anybody's likely, the person most likely to get hurt by Kurai going out of control is himself.
Yeah.
Because the last time, like he mentioned, the last time he went completely out of control, he was a little child and he almost died. Mm-hmm. So, I think, you know, a near-death experience is enough in and of itself to be like, okay, maybe I should put the brakes on this before it gets that bad.
Yeah, because he's like, I mean, I feel like he's very similar to Ida, but a little bit more socially aware. Like,
well, no,
I don't know.
No, that's actually the opposite, I think. No. They're both socially unaware, but Ida is not afraid to say what he's thinking. He will go up and, like, we've seen this multiple times, he will go up in your face. He'll yell at you for breaking a rule. He'll tell you exactly what he thinks to your face. Kurai is kind of like, he's very smart, but he just, and like, he could say all the same things that Ida does. He makes the same observations, but he stays back, and he keeps these observations to himself. Unless he's prompted by somebody else about them.
Yeah, but then, if someone asks him, then he says what he thinks. And sometimes
but he doesn't volunteer his opinion first.
Yeah, okay.
He's not outgoing.
Okay, I guess. Alright. Yeah, so I mean, I just feel like he has a pretty solid character if you talk to him, though. And so it's like, I don't think that... I mean, I'm sure they've dealt with people with much crazier, out-of-control quirks. There were people who have less control over their quirks in the past. So it's like, I don't know, I feel like that's something that's not like a huge concern.
It's a good question, though. I appreciate you bringing it up.
Interesting. But I mean, I think that's just a problematic thing about the story itself is like, why is everyone so fine with Bakugo, or just any character who is a little bit, out of balance mentally, emotionally. So... yeah, that would be an interesting thing to explore, I'm sure, is like in a world where people have superpowers, how do you deal with mental health when someone could be
They do mention that it's mandatory from the time that you're very young that you have to go to certain court counselors that they do psych evaluations on like how your power is affecting your personality, or conversely how your personality can affect your power. They put them through, so like school counselors actually like have to be like a lot more involved with the kids.
Man, you got assigned to Bakugo because they're not doing their job.
Well, they did mention that Aldera High School is kind of a crappy backwater.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess it could be one of those things where it's like public school.
Well, here's a way to think about it.
There's just a lot of kids getting lost in the crowd, so they're not getting the help.
Here's a way to think about it. Here's something from my life. My dad got into the Air Force Academy. Which is the hardest academy to get into in the nation. Like Harvard and Yale, yes, academically they're more difficult, but not only is the Air Force Academy super difficult academically, you have to be physically fit for it. It is, and like the first years, there's like they make your life hell. But my dad went to this nowhere school in Ozark, Missouri. I can't even remember the name of it. Nobody knows what this high school is. But he was the first person to graduate, and he was not only the first person to graduate and get into the Air Force Academy from there, he was the first person to go into the Air Force from that school at all. That could be something similar here with Bakugo. It's like nobody knows who this school is, and he's the first up and coming star to come out.
So he doesn't. He hasn't necessarily had the best support growing up.
Exactly.
He needs to get. So I guess they could be taking that into account, which I think happens a lot with equal, like in reality, with equal access to students who come out of different demographics that don't have as much support, and they tend to try to work with those kids and give them a little more flexibility as they're moving up in school. So I guess that makes sense. It's just hard.
That's just how I saw it.
That makes sense to me. I can see that.
I'm not excusing the faculty, even though they're fictional. But
I'm curious to see in the story if it just continues or if they really start to address his behavior as they get closer to graduation. Because I feel like in order for the characters to be realistic for me, I feel like at some point when they're getting closer to graduation, they need to be seriously considering and talking to him like, hey, you need to really have a reality check because you can't be treating people this way.
I think Aizawa's the kind of teacher who it's like he'll teach them the lessons that he knows they'll learn, but what they do with those lessons afterwards is up to them, and it's on their heads to accept the consequences of their own actions.
Yeah, it's just interesting though because you can train. I mean, you're training these kids for battle, and they're basically turning them into like really powerful weapons. And if they don't have the not correct, but if they don't have a good mentality, then you can just be training someone who's really dangerous.
Yeah.
So it's just, I feel like that's a lot of liability. Anyway, sorry, this is getting really in-depth and we can keep going.
That's what I'm here for.
All right. Dominion 7. Hey, yo, before I start, I want to say that I love how the story is turning out. It's a little bit rare to find stories as well written as this.
Aww.
It's like stumbling onto a hidden gem. Aw, that's sweet. Anyway, I'm a new writer, and I have an ongoing story that I'm writing. I was wondering what tips you have for beginning writers. Thank you so much.
See, I think I might have messaged this. I think this guy might have messaged me. I think I got back to you. But thanks for your review. If you're seeing this video and I didn't message you, hit me up again, and I'll give you whatever tips I've got in response to whichever kind of story you're wanting to do. Because infinite number of story, different number of tips I can offer.
But I feel like I think one of the biggest things that you started doing in the last few years that really helped you grow was the way you develop your characters.
In what way?
Because I feel like originally, when you first started writing, you just said, okay, this is this character, this is the way he is. Bam! And that character might change a little bit.
Oh, so you're talking about static characters?
Yes, but not just that. I think when we started doing character design together, we'd say, okay, this character's like this, but let's ask why. What made them this way? Why do they react to this? So and if you look at a lot of tropes, especially in anime, anytime you have a character that's really beloved, there's something a little silly about them. There's something that they have a deathly fear of. There's something, so they have...
There's something they want more than anything.
Yeah,
and there's something, seemingly insurmountable that's in the way of achieving that dream.
Yeah. And so that's, how I feel like when developing new characters, it's really important to ask yourself those questions. Like, how did they grow up? Why do they react the way they are? Is this something they were just born with, or is this something that was caused by their upbringing or something that happened to them at some point? If you think Fairy Tale with Urza, she's this crazy, powerful, scary warrior, but she's
she grew up a slave.
Yeah, she grew up a slave, and she's got this crazy dark backstory, but then we also know that she loves cake, and she's obsessed with cake, and it's just this funny little thing that every once in a
theater
while
performances, even though she gets stupid amounts of stage fright.
Yeah, so I feel like it's just you have to think of your characters as getting to know a real person, because I feel like most people will have all these different parts of their personality.
Contradictions and complexities.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so I think, and then, of course you're going to have character development, gradually through your story. So they're going to continue having things happen to them that changes who they are. But I think they need to have that history and that deep personality going into it from the beginning. Because I feel like that's been like a really big thing that you've worked on recently.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that's a good point. So you heard the lady, check up on your, so get a head start on me. Check up on your...
What was that book you like?
Which one?
How to Write, I think it was How to Write Best-Selling
Oh, How to Write
Fiction.
Best-Selling Fiction?
It's really helpful. Oh, I think it's right here.
Yeah, this was written like in the 80s, I think. Dinar Koontz, he's a well-known author, loads of books translated into many languages.
Very well loved. We actually got it used on Amazon, so and now it's even
some
more
of the
used.
Some of the stuff in it is a little dated, but the advice in writing it is pretty solid for the most part, especially when it comes to creating perhaps more importantly, understanding the characters you're making.
Yeah, so I think that's like it for anybody who's just starting to write and wanting to kind of develop your own style. I felt like that was a really helpful book. Cool. All right. So this is his review. Okay, so Dominion 7, this is his second little comment.
Okay.
Hey, it's me again. Sorry if I seem repetitive. I love Chapter 7, and I can't wait for the next one to come out. Although I do have another question. How do you come up with your previews? Do you just write it, or do you already know which part of the preview is coming from? Which part the preview is coming from? Thanks.
I know which part the preview is coming from.
Okay.
Yeah.
How do you decide?
Like what part to reveal? I don't know. It kind of depends. Like, I don't know. It honestly depends on a mixture of my current mood and the contents of the chapter that was just released. So like, if I feel like the chapter has been like, take the Not Day chapter for example. I felt like it was kind of slow. It was a nice, fun chapter, and then at the end,
your violent action scenes.
Well, actually, yeah. So I actually didn't. I'm actually not sure. I don't remember what preview I put up at the end of that chapter. Let me look it up. But like usually, if it's something like a little slower like that, I'll try to do something like a little more intense to give someone like a different tone to look forward to, kind of thing.
Preview. Okay, sorry. I love this stupid show. It's not stupid. I love it.
What did you go call me
stupid?
Stupid?
It's a good show. I love it.
Let's see. Let's see. So at the end of. Okay, so I didn't pull up the chapter 7. I pulled up for chapter 8 because that's already been released. But the preview that I put up, which is going to be coming on here in a few minutes for the audio chapter. So chapter 8 was like really heavy action, like lots of high risk stuff. Kind of leaves off on a lower note. So I decided to kind of put the preview in for something a little more comical because I want you guys to have an experience of a little bit like as broad of a spectrum as I can give you. Because like one of the things I love about Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood anime is like that thing can make you go from terrified to so sad to laughing your freaking head off all in the span of about 20 minutes. That's one of the like.
That's entertainment. That's entertainment done right.
It evokes all of the emotions from you. I think that's a good example of artistry of visual and audio. What am I saying? Visual and audio art. I don't know what I'm doing anymore, guys. I don't think I took long enough of a vacation. You get what I'm saying.
In general,
you get what I'm saying.
That's the point of art.
Yeah.
In any form.
Yeah. So yeah, like I said, kind of depends on my mood. Kind of depends on what the chapter was. But I do know which part the snippet is going to be coming from. I have that all ordered out.
Nice.
Did they have anything else to say?
That was it from Dominion.
Okay.
All right, so I think from here on it's chapter 8 reviews.
Okay, so that's the USJ one.
Yeah.
Cool.
Crazy stuff going down. All right, Joe Clone. I knew it, Energon-powered lightsaber, but I didn't expect Kurai to basically go Super Saiyan and do a Kamehameha. There was so much awesomeness in that moment. I really love Kurai's power set so far. Nice. Pairing him with Todoroki, that was an interesting move, and the context for Kurai's interaction with him was very poignant. I can see them becoming confidants down the line, assuming Kurai lives long enough for it to matter. Nice to meet the parents. Funny how Hokusha is just Kurai with a beard. Yeah.
I mean, if you saw my dad and my youngest brother, they are the same person. 20 years apart.
Yeah. All right. The moments with his classmates were short and sweet, but Mina, man, she's going all in now. That ship name you suggested Mirai, that's the Japanese word for future. I think it fits pretty well. Don't exactly know why. Maybe just the foreboding feeling I get when I want to see them last, but I knew Kurai is on the road to doom. Not exactly the best future.
You could call it odd future.
You did every character justice. I can't wait to hear the next one.
Oh, thanks, dude.
Thanks. That was really thoughtful. That was a very thoughtful review.
Yeah. I didn't think about that. I didn't think about what that word was in context until after I put it up. But then I was like, hey, you know what? This actually makes it. I'm like, A, it's kind of a good ship name. B,
that's
like
I like the way that he sums that up.
Yeah. So thanks. That's really good.
I like it. Yeah. Him and Todoroki. Yeah, I thought it was interesting that he paired him with Todoroki as well. Because it's like Todoroki's already like super powerful, and Kurai is one of the more powerful people in the class. And so I was thinking he'd put him with somebody who's weaker, like because I thought he was just gonna replace Mineta. But I like how Asui and Deku were still able to get out of that situation on their own without Mineta. Because I really don't.
He didn't do anything. He didn't hardly do anything.
Yeah, it's like you could literally freak them, do any weird kind of thing to throw them off guard, and then do what you need to do.
Yeah.
So anyway, nice.
I thought it would be interesting to put them together, given how Kurai hates Endeavor. Maybe not as much as Todoroki does, but he's definitely not on the guy's top 10 list.
Yeah. All right.
I thought I'd test the. Well, like they don't even talk about their dads that much. Just kind of like Todoroki's like. So you're the cop's son? Yeah, you're Endeavor's son? Don't you think we have more important things to worry about right now?
Mm-hmm. That's very anime, though. It's like, we're about to die. Let's talk about our feelings.
Yeah, but I kind of skipped that.
Yeah.
Like, I was kind of like, this. I'm like, A, it's too early for this. B, it'd just be funny if I skipped it.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, I know. We've been watching Naruto Shippuden, and that's like every time it's like we're running out of time, we've got to fight this person.
5 episodes of exposition.
Yes, let's sit here and communicate about why we're doing what we're doing, how we got here. Ooh, let's do some flashbacks real quick. By the way, I have all these emotions that are going on right now. Another flashback. Oh, we should start fighting because everyone's gonna die. Oh, by the way, more emotions. It's just I love it.
There was a little bit of that.
Ridiculous, but I love it.
There's a lot of that.
Anyway, sorry. I digress. All right, Meijin Lightus, great chapter mate. Can't wait for more. Is Kurai and Deku going? Are Kurai and Deku going to train together? That would be cool. How about Pink Energy for the ship name? Pink Energy.
I mean, it's cute, but I kind of like, and I appreciate the suggestion, but I like Mirai better, honestly.
Yeah, especially after what Joe Clone said.
Yeah, definitely.
I think that was a really good point about that ship name. It's very cool.
Yeah.
Right. I'm
let's
so
see.
excited.
Are Kurai and Deku going to train together? You'll actually get your answer to that in the audio chapter that's coming up here.
All right. So, Fairy Sing Girl. Wow, that was intense. I'm glad Kurai managed to survive that fight. That was sad about how his uncle died, saving Endeavor from being killed. And then Endeavor just not giving a crap during the funeral. I'd probably be angry too in Kurai's shoes. Anyway, I hope Kurai will be fully recovered soon.
Well, thank you. Kurai appreciates your well wishes.
Hopefully he will recover. Alright, Silly Kita, I still love this handle. It's like one of my favorite handles.
Real quick, something that I love about this story is that, it's a fact that Kurai is going to die at some point in the story. Mm-hmm. What I love is that usually when you go into these stories, especially fan stories, you can always assume that the original character has some kind of plot armor happening. Mm-hmm. Kurai does not have that. As a matter of fact, Kurai has plot Achilles heel. Mm-hmm. He is going to die at some point in this story.
Yeah.
What I love is that you guys have no idea when that's going to happen.
He's enjoying this.
And I'm going to enjoy stomping all over the remnants of your broken little hearts when it does happen.
Oh my gosh. Man, y'all are suckers for punishment. That's what I'm... It just reminds me, there was this one time when I was reading a book and I got really angry and threw it. And I was all mad and I was like bad-mouthing the author. And Joe was like, Becca, they're literally doing their job. They got you super angry. Calm down.
To get an emotional to get a genuine emotional reaction out of you. That's the job of any good author.
All right. Silly Kia, given your usually propensity for slow burns, the speed at which this relationship seems to be developing surprises me. feels a tad rushed, but I suppose there's something to be said for near-death experiences giving someone a little perspective. Yeah, I agree. Speaking of which, the fight was well written, though I was tempted to walk away when it looked like he had beaten the Nomu, as that really would make him insanely overpowered, given that he's a little more than a child. And even All Might needed a lot of training before he got to where he is now. Preceding that, it felt a little redundant / necessary to place him with Todoroki, as either of them could clearly handle the villains on their own. But maybe that's just me. Then again, with the strain that Kurai's quirk causes his mind, maybe it wouldn't have turned out so well if he had to fight a lot of people. I hope that we get to see more on that as the story progresses. At the very least, this is an original quirk with severe consequences that don't riff off of One for All. So I like that. In summation, this chapter was a solid one, even if I had to suspend my disbelief just a bit with power scaling. Looking forward to seeing what you do with Mina and Kurai, because, as I said, this ship is rather different from your other works thus far in terms of progression. See you next time.
Well, that was a lot.
I actually have to say I agree. When he was first reading this to me and I thought that he might have defeated the Nomu, I was like, dude, no, this can't be real.
He made two rookie mistakes that I suppose I should highlight now if I didn't do well enough in the story. One, he assumed that his enemy would stay down. Two, he played his trump card too quickly. Like, yes, he could. Yes, the thing was coming after him. He needed to do something crazy to get himself away. But that's what he should have done. He should have powered up and used that to get himself and others away if he needed to. Mm-hmm. He should not have gone in and tried to fight that thing. Yeah. He, in his desperate, he went in, he fought, his brain's starting to bleed. He's clearly not thinking very well. So he hit him with a Kamehameha, the strongest attack that he had. He blew him up. He assumed victory, but, we see the arm and the head go fly in separate ways. We know, we as the audience know that if the head survives, the Nomu can come back from just about anything. And he he cut it in half. So he should have known that too. He should have known that normal methods of, even normal lethal methods wouldn't have stopped it. Mm-hmm. But he got desperate and he made several mistakes. And yes, he's powerful. But I'm not sure if I mentioned this before, but I'll do some math real quick off of the My Hero Academia 2 Heroes movie. We see that All Might's peak of power has declined so much ever since this fight with All for One, to the point where when he fights Nomu, it's at about 1/5 of what it would have been.
And doesn't someone during that fight make a comment about how... Or no, it's All Might. Yeah, that's right. During the fight, in the original, All Might is thinking to himself, like, "Oh my gosh, in my prime, I could have taken."
Oh, at the end of it, he kind of makes a joke out of it. He's like, "I really have gotten weaker. Back in my heyday, 5 hits would have been enough to take that guy out, but today it took 300 mighty blows."
Yeah.
So All Might has gotten so much weaker, and that is All Might's weakened state. That is where Kurai caps out, and it almost kills him. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that is not on. He is not on equal standings with All Might. At all.
Because I'm so sorry, it's been a while since I've seen the show. I know Aizawa fought the Nomu. Mm-hmm. Who else came at blows with the Nomu aside from Aizawa?
Deku did.
Deku
punched him. He didn't break his arm, but then he realized, oh wait, that didn't do anything. This was a terrible idea.
Yeah, so it's I think, and if Deku had more control over his quirk at this point, I think he probably could have done a lot more damage.
If you remember, he has learned at this point. Kurai helped him to conjure a mental image that allows him to use 5% of his power without breaking anything. Yeah. But he's only at the point where he knows how to channel it in one limb at a time. He hasn't done full cowling yet.
So it's this is the very
5% is not going to do anything against Nomu.
Deku and Kurai, they're both novices, and then All Might is, like you said, weakened, so that's why
and here's something else real quick. It was not Kurai's raw strength that allowed him to bring the Nomu close to death. Let me bring that up real quick. It was the fact that his power allows him to spam laser blasts. As I covered and one of the things I love about My Hero Academia is all these little nuances that you can exploit about different people's quirks. How when All Might fights Nomu in the original, he says his power was shock absorption, not nullification. That means there has to be a limit to what he can take. Shock absorption, laser's light doesn't leave a physical impact on anything. That's why his lasers do anything. Yeah, so when he hits Nomu with a laser blast, the actual laser hitting him, it melts through his skin, but the explosion itself does nothing to him. So he has like some skin messed up, and that heals back. The explosion doesn't even knock him back.
When he used Energon, it was super effective.
But when he uses his sword, which is a non-explosive type of energy, and he cuts through him, that's just a laser. There's no real physical force being applied.
If he were to actually hit him, he probably wouldn't do anything.
He does try to punch him, and he breaks his knuckles when he does.
Yeah, so clearly, a one for all is still got him way beat on as far as
the only reason he was able to make any headway against Nomu was because he was technically able to exploit a loophole that he didn't even know about.
It was just his unique quirk that happened to affect the Nomu differently than just
when Todoroki froze the Nomu, he froze half his limbs off. Mm-hmm. The reason that worked was because there was no physical force being applied to Nomu.
He was just changing the how do you say? Oh, my brain is gone. Never mind. Oh well. The atmosphere,
the molecular structure. No, not molecular structure.
Changing the thesaurus. What's another word for atmosphere?
Stratosphere? This is why I never get anything done.
Radiance. What's going on here?
Do we have any other reviews or anything else in that review that we should have covered?
He talked about the slow burn with Mina. And it's not slow burn, the really fast relationship happening. That's a lot.
Yeah, that's true. I think the fastest I've had a relationship move between characters, like not necessarily in terms of chapter to chapter, because in Saints,
right?
Goran and Kinuna, one chapter they're not dating, but they've been friends for a while, and they start dating, and so for us that's one chapter to another. One they're not dating, the next they are. But in their eyes, it would have been a year and a half, almost 2 years.
These guys, it's definitely.
These guys, it's only been a few weeks. Yeah.
And I think for me, it felt rushed too. And I think Kurai, we can talk about this a little bit more when we get into the next chapter. But he's really awkward. It's like, oh my gosh, it's a little painful. I don't know. I feel like Mina's. She's.
You guys thought this was painful. Wait till you hear the audio chapter that's coming up.
She's got some self confidence because he's. If it was me, I would have given up on him real fast. I don't know. She's real nice.
All right. So we're gonna do the audio chapter read by me is coming up here, and we'll be right back afterwards to explain the behind the scenes of what happened in the chapter. So be back in a minute. Heartfelt. Kurai had to spend a total of 2 weeks in the hospital under close observation from his doctor and nurses, due to the chance that his brain might start bleeding again if he didn't take it easy, both physically and mentally. He had severely overextended his quirk fighting against a monster that had taken All Might, the number one pro hero, to defeat. Given all that, he would have expected to be bored out of his skull, but things had changed for him as of late. Kurai had never been a particularly social person. And as a result, the only person he stayed in touch with from middle school was Ida, who he still attended classes with. That didn't bother him, though. He was happy being friends with the young man and got on very well with his family, so he never felt lonely or depressed about his lack of friends. Now, though, somehow, he had found himself with a new wealth of companions, without even meaning to. There was still Ida as his best friend, of course, but often seen with his class rep these days were Izuku Midoriya and Ochako Uraraka, both eager and kind-hearted students that had an irrepressible sense of contagious energy about them. Kirishima was an incredibly eager young man that constantly sought to become as manly a hero as possible, and had been one of the first people in the class to welcome Kurai into his social circle. There was also Ojiro, Asui, Hagakure, Jiro, and Kaminari, who he didn't know as well, but had each come to visit him during his stay in the hospital. The one person he had expected to come see him, but hadn't, was his training partner, Momo Yaoyorozu. They had worked very well together, and had even talked at some length about their own stories on how they got into UA High, so it now puzzled him that she seemed to have no interest in talking to him, especially given his current state. He had thought they might become friends, but then again, he wasn't the best at reading social situations. Maybe she didn't much care for him, and their working well together had just been a result of previous combat lessons. However, in contrast to that, there was another person he looked forward to seeing more and more with each day that passed. His classmate, Mina Ashido, the girl that had confessed to having feelings for him, made sure to visit him each and every day, even on the weekend. Upon her rather heartfelt confession, he had told her that he needed some time to think about what them becoming romantically involved would entail, though he had admitted that he was positively inclined toward the notion. His caution was mostly due to two main factors, the first being that he hadn't known Mina for very long, and he was slow to befriend people in general, exhibited by his only real friendship prior to UA being Ida. The other stemmed from said friend being opposed to romantic relations with classmates and potential coworkers, due to the strain it could put on them in the field, which was especially risky for pro heroes. However, having thus far not been able to determine who his crush was, the bespectacled boy had been unable to deter Mina from continuing her amorous approach to his friend. Having little to do in the hospital besides visits from his friends and family, he had considered these two negatives thoroughly, comparing them to the possible positives that could be born of a romantic entanglement with the girl. She was fun, unpredictable, a social butterfly, peppy, optimistic, all the things that he was not. Normally, he would have gone out of his way to avoid such a person, but she had somehow melted his normal defenses against such people, and it had nothing to do with her acid quirk. It was nice spending time with her, be it just the two of them or a group setting. He supposed there was a truth to the old saying, opposites attract. He was, for a fact, attracted to the girl. Others might have been put off by the black and caramel eyes, the short horns sprouting out of her head, maybe even her bright pink skin, but he found all those traits strangely endearing. Then again, his favorite pro hero was Gang Orca, a decidedly odd-looking man, so he supposed bizarre appearances made little to no negative impact on him. As for the two negatives, he realized that, best friend or not, Ida was not going to directly stand in the way of his decisions regarding his friends, much as he might want to. Not to mention that the atmosphere of Class 1A seemed to have a positive effect on one's social barriers, meaning, of course, that it more or less disintegrated them. It just seemed to take differing amounts of time to work on certain individuals. As the days crawled by, he began to feel bad about keeping her waiting, despite her insistence that he take his time in giving her an answer. She was his friend, and romantic potential aside, she deserved better than to be strung along by his indecision, even if it technically wasn't his fault. I do like her, Kurai finally thought to himself during his first conscious Monday in the hospital. Just articulating it in his head made him feel as though a burden had lifted off his shoulders, but it was quickly replaced by a new one. How do I tell her? He supposed the best way would be to just come out and say it the next time they were alone, but he had no idea how to handle himself in such a situation. He'd had crushes before, sure, but they were always surface attraction, and he never possessed the courage to act on them. Why is this so nerve-wracking? He asked himself repeatedly. She likes me. She said so herself. She put herself out there first. I have the easy part. Why is my heart doing jumping jacks? Though he applied logic and reason to the situation for hours, he could not stop the dryness in his throat, the trembling in his arms, and the heartbeat that outright refused to slow down. After all, the heart is a creature not tamed by such things as level-headed thinking and cold calculations. It is a raging, fiery beast that is calmed by one thing alone: unconditional love. Every human being seeks that soothing embrace, even from such a young age, and though few enough are lucky to find it, they begin that search with reckless abandon as soon as they are able to understand what love is. Of course, conflicting with that desire is the raw animal terror of having one's heart broken by the part of a person's soul that wishes to remain unharmed. By venturing nothing, nothing is gained, and nothing is lost. Keeping your desires locked away means safety. These two primal entities conflict often within humans, and the mind is the battleground on which they duel. Often in youth, the desire to love and be loved wins out over in controlling the actions of the person experiencing these wants. But if the resolve to remain unhurt in the most intimate of ways stays strong during those fragile years, it becomes harder and harder for love to take root within, until there is no chance that person can ever truly love or be loved. This battle and its potential outcomes are one of the most frightening things that people can experience, yet there is no escaping it. One of the few things that we can control, however, is how quickly we act upon or against our desires. Kurai decided to act sooner rather than later, lest his courage fail him and he lost his chance to experience a new kind of love, one not familiar or friendly, but that of young romance. He was preparing to deliver the speech he had spent the last 30 minutes working on when his door opened, and he turned toward the door after hearing a light knock to greet who he hopefully thought would be his future girlfriend. Instead of seeing Mina Ashido walk through the door, though, he was greeted by another familiar face. "Hey, Hikari," Izuku Midori said with a friendly grin as he stepped through the door, followed by his ever-present companion, Uraraka. He all but yelped, flushing a deep red as he backpedaled, nearly falling over on the process. "Are you doing okay?" the other boy asked with concern. "Do you need me to call a nurse?" "No, just..." Kurai breathed, forcing himself to calm down. "You guys surprised me." "Sorry, we are a little early," Uraraka said with a cheery smile. Mr. Aizawa's been letting us out early so we can train for the sports festival coming up. Oh, that's in 2 weeks! Rats! Kurai grumbled, his embarrassment forgotten in his annoyance. That means I get half the training time everyone else does. I'm sure you'll be fine, the girl said encouragingly. The only person I could see giving you competition is Todoroki. Don't count out Kachan, Izuku replied. He might be a jerk, but his quirk and his control over it are nothing to laugh at. I would know having had to fight him. I'm with Uraraka. Kurai shrugged. Yeah, he's got skill and power, but his temper is his biggest weakness, and it's easy to exploit. But speaking of controlling a quirk, he met Izuku's eyes as he said, I heard you broke your legs last week. Yeah, the other boy stammered. I saw the villains moving to attack All Might after he was messed up from fighting Nomu, and I just moved without thinking. Fortunately, the other pros showed up before I got hurt any worse. We can't rely on luck every time, though, Kurai muttered. I want to propose a trade, Midoriya. Huh? His friend said blankly, Ochako looking on with a mixture of confusion and interest. You were able to control your quirk a lot better after I told you about my focusing method, right? He asked. Uh-huh, Midoriya nodded. I still hurt myself a bit, but it was sure better than having broken bones. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but you spent a lot of time studying pro-hero quirks and how they work, yeah? Kurai continued. Again, his friend answered in the positive, so he said, Okay, then I want you to study my quirk, and see if you can help me figure out how to use it without killing myself every time I need to use my ascended power. In return, I'll help you to better control your own quirk so that you're not a glass cannon anymore. Are you sure? Izuku asked, his eyes wide. I mean, I know a lot about quirks, sure, but I'm not a doctor. All the doctors ever tell me is not to exert myself that hard again, Kurai said with a dogged shake of his head. I refuse to believe that I have this power but can only use it at the cost of risking death each time I do. You've helped reinforce that idea by the efforts you've exerted to better control your own abilities. Extending a hand out to his friend, he asked, So, how about it, Midoriya? Sound like a fair trade? I can't promise success, the boy answered as he gripped Kurai's hand, but I will promise to do my best, Hikari. I can accept that, Kurai grinned. Thanks. Do you know when you get out of the hospital so you can start being training buddies? Ochako giggled. If all goes well, Thursday or Friday, Kurai answered as they released their grips. By the way, do you know if Ida's coming by today? He said he was going to do some training with Ingenium since he's out of town until tomorrow morning, Izuku answered. He did tell you to say that he said hi, though. Got it. The recovering boy nodded. Did you bring my schoolwork then? No, Ashida said she would bring it around 4. Uraraka replied, her short brown hair waving as she shook her head from side to side. There is someone else who wanted to see you, Izuku said with a bright grin as he looked up at the clock. He said he'd be stopping by right about now. As if on cue, the door burst open to admit a heroic mass of muscle topped by golden hair and a smile so perfect it would put dentists out of a job. I am here! All Might declared loudly, nearly giving Kurai a heart attack in the process. Come to see my heroic student on his way to recovery! Yay! And if I get another surprise like that! The boy grumbled under his breath as he kept himself steady with the railing on his bed. However, he honestly couldn't be mad that All Might had taken the time to come visit him. Raising his voice so that he could be heard, he said, I'm surprised to see you, sir, but I'd be lying if I said it wasn't a pretty cool surprise. Behind All Might, Izuku and Ochako departed, saying that they would come back when their teacher had left. Ha 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 ha! All Might guffawed. He was dressed in a yellow suit and blue tie instead of his hero attire, but Kurai figured the man had to take the stuff off at some point. I'm just glad to see you doing so well, young Hikari. I'm told that you put up quite a fight against those dastardly villains. That was pretty risky, but all things considered, you did quite well. Flashing another $1 million smile, the giant man added, Take pride in what you did, saving your classmates' lives from the League of Villains, especially in the face of something that many pros would have run from. Thank you, sir, Kurai said with a short bow. It means a lot coming from you, both as my teacher and as a great hero. You are welcome, young Hikari, All Might replied with an enthusiastic thumbs up. Well, I know this was a short visit, but I should let you kids catch up and allow you to recover from your ordeal. Farewell. With that, he turned around to leave, muttering, I hope that wasn't a media circus gathering outside. Wait, All Might, Kurai said impulsively. There's something I need to ask you. The pro turned back to face him, a puzzled look on his broad features. Do you... He hesitated, unsure if what he was about to ask was appropriate or not. Is everything all right, young Hikari? Kurai was surprised by the genuine concern in his teacher's voice, but it encouraged him nonetheless. Do you remember the fight against the Pentagram Yakuza family? He inquired solemnly. About 10 years ago? That's not a battle I'll forget in a hurry, young man, All Might answered gravely. Too many good men and women fell that day. I know, sir, Kurai said sadly, his eyes falling to the floor. I guess I really wanted to know if you remembered the funeral you attended. That of lead detective Hogosha. Yes, I remember him, the blond man nodded. A good man, a great hero in my book. Saved Endeavor's life, as I recall. Left behind a wife and a son. Kurai added, surprising his instructor. How did you... All Might paused, bewildered. Wait, are you the lad from the funeral? His son? No, sir, but close. Kurai replied as he met those darkened blue eyes with his own brown ones. He was my uncle, sir. The boy you talked to is my cousin, Shuken. I just wanted to thank you for giving his death meaning, sir. Without you, those Yakuza scumbags would have gotten away. And I think that would have just made his loss all the worse. Sorry to spring this on you, sir. I just never had a chance to say so before now. He sniffed, surprised at the tears pooling in his eyes. He is a large part of why I decided to become a hero. That and your efforts to save my family after he was gone, however small your own contribution was. Young man, I've seen few men as brave as your uncle, the hero told his young charge. You should be very proud of his courage, and that you share blood with him. I am glad to know that his sacrifice was not in vain, if it helped set you on a path that honors him. Thank you, sir, Kurai said with another bow to his instructor. He was surprised when the towering man returned the gesture and replied, The honor was all mine, young Hikari. I wish you a speedy recovery. All Might left soon after, ushering in Ochako and Uzuku once more before taking off in a hurry, apparently having noticed the gathering crowd of media outside the hospital doors being held back by the police detail that Kurai's father had assigned to the building. It was under the pretext that there were victims of the USJ incident still recovering inside the building that allowed him to post a detail as he had, but Kurai had laughed at the notion, knowing that he was the only person left from that encounter that had yet to be discharged. His father was worried about him, and while the gesture was touching, it was only now that he was beginning to appreciate it. Dealing with the press would have been way too much stress on top of everything else. Mina! Somehow in visiting with All Might, he had forgotten that he was supposed to be getting a confession of his own prepared. Ah, crap! He muttered out loud, startling his friends. He reddened instantly when he realized that he had interrupted something Midoriya was saying, and further that he hadn't been even paying attention to what he was saying in the first place. Sorry. Are you still having a hard time focusing? Uraraka asked worriedly. Do you need someone to come check on you? Just, no... he muttered. Stupid headaches. He sat down on the bed heavily, saying, I'm having trouble figuring something personal out, and I don't think my recovery has much to do with it. Probably. Do you need help? Midoriya offered kindly. I can keep a secret, I promise. Me too, Uraraka added enthusiastically. I know I can come off as super go-lucky, but I know how to keep my mouth shut if someone asks me to. Probably a good trait to have as future pros, Kurai chuckled wryly. I don't really know why I'm saying this, but I've always had a hard time trusting people, but you and a bunch of our other classmates are just starting to kill that particular habit of mine. So you'll tell us? Izuku asked with a friendly grin. Only if you swear to secrecy, especially from Tenya. Kurai sighed heavily. Oh, is this about Mina? Uraraka asked innocently, causing Kurai's heart to accelerate to an alarming pace. You! He gasped. Does he know? What? Wait, what is this about Ashido? Izuku asked, confused. No, Ida doesn't know, I promise, the girl said quickly, looking over at the machine registering his heart rate. Please, I didn't mean to scare you, Hikari. Ugh. The boy groaned, forcing himself to calm down before a nurse was called to check in on him. Between you guys and All Might, I might end up needing a triple bypass before my stay here is over. Looking straight at Uraraka, he asked, Did Mina say something? Not really, but it was kind of obvious from how much she worried about you. The girl answered with a charming smile. Seriously, it's like you're all she can talk about whenever she texts me. How is he? Is he doing okay? Is he allowed to come home yet? I'm pretty sure I get those messages every time I've come in ahead of her. Multiple times, too. Oh, the boy said, flushing scarlet. How did you know it was her when I asked you to keep it a secret from Tenya? Here, Izuku's eyes registered as he connected the dots. So that's why he's been asking us if we know about any classmates you've gotten especially close with, he exclaimed. But I don't get it. I haven't ever seen you and Ashido together during school. You're usually hanging out with Ida and us. We've hung out a couple of times outside of school, Kurai admitted, still embarrassed at someone else figuring things out. She wants us to be an item? Dating. She wants us to date. Exclusively. Aw, that's so great, Uraraka cooed. She's so nice, and you're really cool, Hikari. Doesn't it seem a little sudden, though? Midoriya pointed out. We've only known each other a couple of weeks, right? Yeah, I keep telling myself that, Kurai mumbled. But The more I try to come up with reasons not to date her, I keep finding more to say that it'd be a good thing. So, when are you going to tell her? Ochako asked excitedly, practically bouncing up and down as she demanded details. I was going to today. I thought that she'd get here before anyone else, Kurai answered. That's why I was so surprised to see you guys walk in instead of her. Oh, that makes sense now, Izuku muttered. I thought you acted kind of weird when we came in, but I thought maybe it would be a side effect of an aneurysm, or maybe some of the medications they've been having you take. There's also the fact that you have to stay in here all day, and that can make you more jumpy. Plus, all the monitors probably don't help with getting a solid night's rest. Not to mention, there's a possibility that some of us might have to deal with some kind of PTSD from now on, which raises a whole new set of problems for us to... Midoriya, please stop it! Midoriya shouted to be heard over his friend's newest mumbling spree. Sorry, the green-haired boy yelped. I forget I'm doing that out loud sometimes. Oh, don't worry about it, Deku, Uraraka said kindly. There are way worse habits to have, you know? Plus, it's great that you have all that knowledge so you can be a better hero and help out Hikari. Oh yeah, Izuku remembered. When do you want to start training together? Soon as I get out of this place, Kurai replied. Since the sports festival is coming up in 2 weeks, we've got a lot of work to do. I think they'll let me walk around outside in the courtyard starting tomorrow morning, so at least we can get you practicing on better mental control over your power. Sounds good, Izuku said excitedly. Thanks so much, Hikari. It was about an hour between the times that the pair of students left and when Mina came to visit. Those 60-odd minutes were some of the tensest of Kurai's life to date. I can face down Nomu and career villains without breaking a sweat, but talking to one of my classmates? No, that's the hard part. Her arrival was heralded by a few light taps on his door, which had him instantly sitting bolt upright in his bed. Come in, he called, trying not to let his voice tremble as he did. This time, to his relief, the person he had been expecting to see came through the door with a bounce in her step and an irrepressible smile. Hey, she chirped as soon as she came in, carrying a large bag full of what he assumed were school books. Hey, he replied, trying to smile, but only managing a slight twitch of his lips. Why is this so scary? I brought your school stuff like I said I would, she told him as she dropped the bag by his bedside. Also mine, because, I wanted to study with you. Is it still cool if we do that? Frosty, he managed to joke, which set her to laughing. Oh man, she giggled. If this is how you start your studies, I might just become a believer in hitting the books. Do we really have that much work to do? He asked doubtfully. No, Mr. Aizawa's actually taking it a little easier on us for some reason. Mina answered as she started pulling out textbooks. Whether it's because of the attack on the USJ or the upcoming sports fest, he's giving us extra time to train our combat skills. He's even letting us use the testing grounds to work out after class. Yeah, Uraraka and Midoriya were telling me about that. Kurai nodded. They stopped by about an hour ago. Yeah, Ochako said they were here. The pink girl nodded as she pulled out a math book. So why all the luggage? I didn't want to bring all your stuff over here more than once, so I just decided to go for broke. She answered as she continued rummaging through the bag. I think that's it. Okay, Mr. Ectoplasm assigned us a few math problems that I really shouldn't be having such a hard time with. Midnight wants us to read Chapter 3 by Wednesday. Oh, and President Mike wants us to translate a song of our choice from Japanese to English. Us? Kurai asked. Yeah, we can do the assignment in pairs if we want, but then we have to turn in a total of 3 songs instead of just one apiece. She nodded, looking thoughtful. I volunteered to partner up with you since you weren't allowed back in school yet. Thanks, he said, touched by the gesture. But do we need to translate it word for word, or does he more or less want us to write cover lyrics? At least one needs to be word for word in order to prove that we understand the assignment, but if you do 1 or 2 of the other ones as a cover that matches the rhyme and meter pattern, then he'll give you extra credit, Mina replied. There's a band called Radwimps that I like. Oh yeah, they featured their music in that classic movie, Your Name. Kurai nodded. Great film, largely because of their music. You're just as big a nerd as Midoriya, aren't you? Mina laughed, making him shift uncomfortably in his bed. Oh, come on, it's kind of cool that you know that much trivia and you know how to be a great hero already. You still got a long way to go on that last one. Seriously, are you 2 long-lost relatives? She laughed again. I'm starting to think that me studying here isn't going to happen unless you stop making me laugh. Actually, before we get to that, Kurai said, his heart beginning to race again. There's something else that something that I should say. Okay, Mina said immediately on edge. Did you, make up your mind then? Yep. He tried to tell her what he'd been wanting to say all day, but for some reason his tongue was suddenly tied in knots. Curse my inability to have a conversation with a pretty girl! He seethed silently. While he was wrestling with himself, Mina sagged a little bit and mumbled, I get it. I guess it was too much to hope that the first guy that... Stop right there! Kurai exclaimed a little louder than he had meant to, and startling the poor girl. I'm not good at these things. Words. Fitting them together, making sense. Good gravy, how am I botching this so badly? I'm confused now, Mina said slowly. From your words, it seems almost like you want to tell me that you like me back, but your face says Rage Fest. What's happening? What you said, he burst out. No, wait, I'm mad at me, not you. But I do think you're really nice and pretty and fun, and I'm just ruining this whole thing, aren't I? He paused, his face blank. This is not how I saw this going. Me neither, Mina said, her cheeks turning lilac. The first time I met you, I thought you were so cool and collected. I still think you're really cool, and now I know that you're just a giant dork. It makes you way cuter. Gah! He said in a strangled voice, feeling as though his face was on fire. Is everyone out to kill me with embarrassment and surprises today? He thought the heat in his face might actually trigger another aneurysm. I'm sorry, Mina giggled. I really am. But here I was preparing myself for the worst, and then you go and say the opposite of what I expected, and the way you do is just too funny. Kill me, he begged as he buried his head in his hands. Get no more in here and kill me before I die slowly of embarrassment. Can't do that, Mina grinned as she moved closer to his bedside. I have a very strict policy against allowing my boyfriend to die. There was smoke coming out between his fingers. Kurai was sure of it. I am really bad at this, he said, muffled by his palms. I'm probably going to be the worst boyfriend to ever exist. Yeah, I wouldn't know, Mina shrugged. I've never dated anyone before. This is going to be new for me, too. Also, really fun and exciting, I think. Slowly, gently, she pried his hands away from his flustered face as she sat down next to him. Hi there. Hi, he said slowly, a nervous grin on his face. So, is that it? Are we a thing now? I have no idea how this works. Yes, silly, you're my boyfriend, I'm your girlfriend, yada yada. She giggled as she kept his hands in hers. Congrats, we're going to be dating each other from now on. Oh, he said, dumbly, prompting another laugh from her. What now? That depends, she said mischievously. Did you want to just study, or did you want to do something else? It took him a couple of seconds to register the implications of what she was suggesting, and when it did, he immediately fainted. Oops, Mina said, surprised. I didn't expect him to do that. Smacking herself in the face, she grumbled, Nice one, Ashido. You finally got a boyfriend and you rush things and now he's broken. At least we're in the hospital. He didn't take too long to wake up, but when he did, he was pale as a sheet, a stark contrast to the tomato shade that he'd been exhibiting up until that point. His eyes flicked open to scan the room, immediately seeing Mina's horn sticking out over a history book, though he could see nothing of her face, the way that she was holding it. He began, causing her to visibly tense up. I messed up again, didn't I? Not any more than I did, she said in a very small voice. Sorry, Kurai. I got way ahead of myself. Yeah, a little bit, he agreed, though he did manage for a small smile in spite of himself. I know you're a go for broke kind of person, but yeah, I didn't expect that. I've only got movie stuff to go off of, she admitted bashfully, still hiding her face from him. I always thought that people start these kinds of things with a big old kiss, but I forgot that you're more reserved than I got caught up in the moment. Reserved, yes, he nodded. Opposed to getting kissed from you? Not really. You just took me by surprise on top of everything else today. And last week, I guess. I didn't know how to respond. So my brain just decided to cop out. I'm sorry. You don't have anything to be sorry about, she said, peeking over the edge of her textbook at him. I'm the one who rushed things. But it is nice to know that you aren't opposed to that. He thought that she might have been blushing, but it was hard to tell. Maybe some other time, he asked carefully. Yeah, that sounds good, she nodded, thumping her horns on the pages on accident. Stupid things. I like them, Kurai said without thinking. Mina froze in place. Huh? Your horns? He said cautiously, not sure if he was about to really step in it or if she was just surprised to hear somebody compliment them. I think they're kind of cool. It really completes your look. You do? She asked, the book lowering just a little bit more, allowing him to fully see her wide eyes. My horns are cool? You're talking to a guy whose favorite hero is Gang Orca, so yeah, I think they look cool. He nodded, feeling a little more confident about his compliments, and since it seemed as though she was taking it as such. You've got a really unique look, Mina. A good one. That's just part of it, but it's impossible for me not to notice. No fair, you said you weren't good at this, she complained jokingly as she lowered her book to show that she was, in fact, sporting a heavy blush. Everyone else just either tries to ignore my horns or calls them freaky, but here you all calling them cool and saying that I look good. Was I not supposed to say that?
Kurai asked, confused. This is getting me all turned around again. No, she said urgently. No, it was nice to hear. Thank you, Kurai. You're welcome, he said with a nervous smile. Should we, get to studying? I guess, the girl said heavily. I've been trying to focus on a stupid history reading, but my brain isn't cooperating. Well, then I guess we'll call this our first study date, Kurai said as he held out his hands. Let me see my math book. We'll get to work on that. Reading we can just do separately as well as alone, but you said that you were having issues with mathematics. Let's see if I can't help you out in that department. Okay, she grumbled, reaching for the requested item. But once we get out of here, you're taking me on a real date. Got it, Buster? Yes, ma'am, he smirked. Guess that wasn't so bad after all.
Must you?
He hates it.
I love Owen Wilson movies. I just that one line is.
Wow.
I know where you sleep.
Don't you guys? Now I'm gonna watch that video with the lightsabers and the Owen Wilson. I'm so excited. If you haven't seen that video, look it up. It's amazing.
No.
All right. Anyway, sorry. I'm distracting because I'm really tired.
You're distracted, so you get back on. You're the one that has to get us back on task then.
Okay, chapter 9. Go. Summary.
Sorry. Well, they just heard the audio chapter.
Okay, well then what do you want to talk about?
Okay, I love how this turns out to be my fault somehow. And she's the one that derailed it with Owen Wilson videos. Whatever. So... Alright, so... Nothing action heavy in the way of this chapter, obviously. It's mostly mental jumping jacks. High school, what are you gonna do? Let's see, So, the scene with Kurai and All Might, I had initially planned to do that after their first after their first class, their first combat class, but I realized that wouldn't work for a number of reasons. The first being, All Might's time limit. He was running out of time to stay in his super form.
That's also a lot to tell to a teacher.
Well, I was about to say there's two other reasons. So just off the source of the anime, All Might was running out of time, and there's no way he's going to stick around to have an extra chat. Second reason is that yes, there is a lot of stuff to unload on someone who you just met, whether they're your teacher or not.
And Kurai is a very reserved
I was going to say the third reason is Kurai's personality. He's very he's almost painfully reserved. Mm-hmm.
Which is very clear in this chapter.
Yeah. What is
drives me crazy.
Oh, what? So they should all be rageaholics that are overconfident?
No, that's not what I'm talking about.
Oh, okay.
At all. I'm talking about the other thing that happens this chapter, but we'll get to that.
Okay. I'm not... What other thing? We'll get to that later. Yeah, so... So yeah, this is kind of I could have had a couple of other chances for that to happen, but this felt like it would be the best... it would fit the best for both their characters, because I feel like All Might would go and visit his students when they were in the hospital. I mean, we see this in season 3. He goes and makes sure that his students are okay. After the whole summer camp incident.
And it's kind of like what we talked about in the reviews earlier, where it's life and death experience. You get a little bit closer to people, and you feel a little more comfortable sharing things with them.
Even if he and All Might didn't fight side by side.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, you're right. You're right.
He's in a vulnerable state. He's in the hospital. Mm-hmm. I feel like that's if he's gonna share his feelings.
Yeah, he went into a fight fully expecting to not walk away from it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that would. I agree. That would tend to give you some perspective on things.
Conversation with All Might.
Let's see. His conversation with Deku and Uraraka, which. Honestly, at first, I thought, I didn't even think about putting that in, but I decided that it would be good for him to kind of start having some closer... I felt like it would be appropriate because, they all just went through a life and death situation if he started to have at least one or two more confidants than just Ida.
Yeah. And it's very different in that setting from being at school, because you're it's much more intimate, and they're present, they're listening, and it's not regular everyday stuff. And so I feel like you're much more likely to have those heart-to-hearts. And
not to say that he has less respect for Uraraka and Deku, but I mean, it's clear that him and Ida respect each other so much already.
They have a different kind of friendship.
They do have a different kind of friendship. What I'm getting at is that the reason Kurai, because Kurai kind of freaks out about it, he's like, hey, you haven't told Ida that Mina and I are kind of, and I'm like, no. So what I'm getting at with that is like him and Ida respect each other so much that it's only natural that he would be afraid of what Ida would say or do,
which is so high school.
If he went against his best friend's advice.
Yeah. And so it's just like, obviously, dude, come on. If you're not telling your best friend, this is not going to go well. Something is going to blow up. This is going to blow up in your face totally.
Either the relationship or the fact that the relationship will blow up because you're keeping secrets, or your friendship could be in danger because you're keeping secrets. But something bad's going to happen.
These aren't rational adults. These are high schoolers.
These are teenagers.
They're going to make this decision.
They're going to make stupid decisions, which him dating Mina, I wouldn't say is the stupid decision.
Not necessarily. I think it's just not being honest with everybody, especially since he and Ida are so close. I mean, I feel like sometimes
this would be like the first time that Kurai consciously keeps something from Ida.
Yeah, because I feel like with friends you have to have boundaries too. Even if you have a lot of respect for them, you're not always going to agree with everything your friends do, and they're not always going to agree with you. So it's like, oh, you know what? I understand. I see your point. But this is my life. I'm going to make this decision, and, I'm going to expect you to respect that. Yep. And so, but that's the adult thing to do. Of course they're not going to do the adult thing. So
they're teenagers. They do stupid things.
Start, kind of stoking the fire, see what happens from here.
Yep.
And then the conversation with Mina.
I want you all to know that I, died inside to make that audio chapter happen, so I hope you guys appreciated it. Why was that so painful to you? I'm the one that had to read it.
I'm just like, she's got a lot of patience with him. I would have been like, nah, I'm good. No, I don't know, maybe not.
So
she likes him a lot.
She likes him a lot, and Mina strikes me as she strikes me as a little more complicated than you see her at first glance, because everybody in the flashback chapter with Kirishima. Everybody talks about how oh, she's cute, she's super popular, she's great hero material, aesthetics are all that people care about these days when it comes to being a popular hero, right? She's got all that stuff going for her. But I mean, if you met anybody in real life that's like that, you got to know they're hiding some kind of insecurity. They got to have some insecurity issue going on, and I think that this was a good example of where that shows up. Because she talked to Kurai about it earlier. She was like, yeah, I've got all stuff going for me, but nobody really tried to get to know me as a in-depth person. Everybody's just assumed that I was the happy-go-lucky airhead that didn't really notice the stuff that was happening around her.
You don't think I know a lot of crap about the gospel, but I do. Sorry.
She's been watching Nato Libre again.
Yeah. All right. Sorry.
Yeah. I thought this was a good. This was a good thing for me on a number of levels. One, to try and expand on her character a little bit, and two, this is clearly something that I'm not. This is clearly not something that I write on the regular, but I'm trying to expand my skill set, and this seemed like a good way to do it.
Yeah, I feel like it's so hard when you put yourself out there, and then the other person is that hesitant. For me, that would just be so.
But I mean, look
hard.
at his upper
I'm not mad at him.
Okay.
I just from Mina's perspective, that would be really I would be almost embarrassed because I'm like, oh, you're not.
I mean, from her reaction, from her reaction, when she thinks that he's about to tell her no, you can kind of see that's already happening.
Yeah.
But what was I gonna say? So let's take a look at Kurai real quick.
Yeah.
He's grown up as the son of a police officer, right?
They're very formal.
They're very formal. They're not all big on hugs and feelings and stuff like that.
Not an affectionate.
Him and his brother will they'll roughhouse quite a bit. That's about the most physical that he gets with anybody. He'll give his mom a hug every now and again, sure, he's on his way out to school, but he'll get a handshake from his father or wave goodbye to him on the way.
He's very focused.
Ida's a robot. Ida's a freaking robot. There's gonna be no physical affirmation from that guy.
He's precious, but he is not affectionate whatsoever.
Nope.
Yeah, that's what he does.
Our high school pastor was literally Ida. I can't look at Ida without seeing this guy.
Yeah. Lovable.
I love him. He's great.
But that's, when you're thinking a character that's going to be giving you hugs and stuff? No, definitely
No.
not.
No,
So,
and like this bleeds over like the way that he acts around other people. Like he's never actually like initiated a conversation with somebody else in the class. It's always been other people coming to him. Whenever he's first making contact with them.
So he's already awkward.
Yeah.
And this is very new territory for him, clearly.
He has I would venture to say that he has self-confidence, like, about himself, but he's not confident about his ability to interact with other people.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, yeah, definitely. I can see that.
Yeah.
For sure. I think I've known people like that. Definitely.
But yeah, so him and Mina, they're
so they're a thing now.
They're a thing
Cool.
now. We've got the
It was a little painful getting there.
I promise you that hurt me more than it did you.
No.
But things to look forward to. So we've got Deku and Kurai. They're going to start training with each other. Deku's going to, put his vast knowledge of quirks together and see if he can help his friend figure out how to transform without blowing his head up. And Kurai's going to teach Deku to, learn how to fight with his quirk a little better because clearly he doesn't have much experience with it.
Well, it's new. It's
Well, yeah, it is.
him.
Well, yeah, it is. Yeah, and he
That's the big
but that's why
difference.
he helped him on the first. That's why he helped him on the first. Like that's like the only exception to him waiting for other people to come to him. He went and talked to Deku first.
Yeah, because that's the thing.
But that's because he sympathized with him a great deal.
And I feel like a lot of introverts like me, I have a hard time going up and talking to people, but sometimes when it's like I can see someone's needing something, I can usually approach one individual if I feel like there's a purpose to it. Because if it's like I'm just in a social
Especially if they're off by themselves and not hanging out with the other kids.
If I'm just like in a social situation and everyone's talking and I'm like, I don't know what to do.
Gonna go hide in the corner.
Even when there's someone alone, I'm like, I have no idea how to talk to you. But if I'm observing and I see something happen, I'm like, you know what? I think I should tell this person this. Then it's like I have a purpose and I can feel a little bit more bold about approaching that individual. So I think that's an easy decision for like some introverts could do that easily. I can't talk. Oh my gosh. Wow. Okay. Anyway, sorry.
All right.
This has been a weird day.
Yeah, it's been a weird day. That's been a good day because we got to talk to you guys. Thank you so much for all
Yes.
your reviews. I can't wait to see what you guys think of this chapter. I wonder how many of them are. I wonder what they're going to be more interested in. Kurai and Ida eventually finding out about the relationship, or how Kurai and Deku's training is going to go, and how that's going to affect the upcoming sports festival, because you know it will.
I feel like I don't know. Your reviews lately have been balanced, because usually when people leave your reviews, they're like, "Oh, the relationship's cute, but the fight scenes, yeah." But it's like I feel like for this story in particular, it's been kind of more balanced than your norm. So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, that's why I'm curious.
Yeah.
All right, thanks so much for you guys for sitting through all this. We really appreciate you, and we'll see you again in a couple weeks. Stay plus ultra, everybody.